reimburse how much it costs.
Like you said, we wasn't waiting on you, but we was.
Might be a straight.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so we'll keep it check probably in the future, we can.
Shall I read?
We'll just figure it out.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's 6:05 for the February 1st, 2016 Daniel Town Council meeting. I'd like to excuse Casey Bateman. He had called in ill today, and John usually comes in for just a few minutes, so hope to see him. The first item on the agenda is going to be public comment concerning any issue not on the agenda. Does anyone like to speak? If you would, please come up and say your name for the record.
Good evening, gentlemen, ladies. My name is Stephanie Grady, and I live in Daniel, and I'm here tonight. I live on Ranch Drive, and we all know that the school is, going to be at the end of our road. And so I'm here on the behalf of some of the lot owners and the homeowners. And, there's a couple of things to ensure, our quality of life there. And we've discussed it in the past, and two of them being is no construction road, construction trucks coming up and down that road when they start building in a couple months. And we talked about that at the last meeting I was here when the school presented, the elementary school. And, because we're gonna have a year and a half of trucks going up and down that if we don't get that stopped. And the second thing is the gate that the school proposed, and they also told us at that meeting that they did not need that gate, and because we just feel that their people it's gonna be a big crowded mess over there, they're gonna be going up and down that road. So I'm here to ask the council how they're gonna help us take care of that.
Well, this is a comment period, so we're going to take your comment for the record for sure. We're definitely going to be able to answer that, I'm sure, in the near and further future as we have some of these multiple meetings. And I'd like to bring the school board now to that. I mean, we're going to have certain stages as this go through, and so some of these concerns that we've all been involved with will get addressed during those stages, or how will that play out to answer her question? Would you know, as far as meeting-wise?
Yeah, I think it's part of the architectural planning process. We've been talking about, we heard the concern about both of those issues. Have discussed the conversation dealing with the construction trucks. I've had a conversation with our site engineer on that. I've also, the board is still looking at the gate issue on the side. You're talking about the gate on the...
Yes, sir. Yeah, on the south side, on the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, the cul-de-sac side.
Yeah.
So that gate is part of the plan right now in terms of, it's not right now the plan shows it as a the kind of gate that would open as a crash gate.
It's emergency.
It's an emergency gate.
But
So
you know
that's-
what's going to happen. I mean, people are going
surely,
to be
yeah.
driving.
And this is what we don't want to get into right now, is
Yeah.
this discussion.
But that's where that sets today.
Fair
I think the door is open for further conversations.
Okay, and I should be coming to your meetings to discuss this
I think what we'd like to do is maybe sit down with you guys and hear a little more about what
Okay.
your
Okay.
thoughts are. That's what I heard from the board. If that's okay, you board members, I think that.
And thank you, because each time the record is very important to have everyone's voice on that, so I appreciate you taking
So
the time.
thank you.
To move on to item number 2, which is a presentation by the school district with regards to fiber water line and fiber conduit along Ranch Drive. So probably turn the time over to whoever's going to do the presentation from the school board, and or anyone else make some comments, or Brian, or
Is that me?
Yeah.
I think Ryan's
since
doing
he's going to be designing, you
Yeah.
might as well
So
put him
we
up
better
here.
let him do it.
There you go.
I'll just do a quick sketch on the board since
I love your sketches.
Travis commenting. Usually it comes with a PowerPoint presentation and talk about where it is and all those details. I think you get more accomplished in less time with a couple chicken scratches on the board. So right now on 3000 South, when we did our system, we have stubbed out for water line. Sorry, we have Mill Road and Highway 40. Glad to know these markers were almost as good as the ones we have in our office. There's
There's
something behind it.
There we go.
Out of 3, one of these will work, right?
Eric's going for private stock, here comes the good.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
That one will work for sure.
Mine. There's no guarantee.
All right, so touring everyone, Highway 40, Mill Road to 3000 South. And so we have a water line that comes up 3000, up Mill Road and down 3000 South. So we've already got a water line on the north side of 3000 South. It's an 8-inch water line. When we got to Ranch Drive, we stubbed out a T in valving, and now there's a 6-inch line that runs up a few hundred feet to a fire hydrant, and then we have one connection that's already connected. And so in this proposed design, we'll tie in where this 8-inch line stops currently and run parallel or dig out the 6-inch line, depending on how that design goes that we're going to talk about doing. And then run all the way up basically to the end to supply water to the school, and then in the future stub out to residents. And we'll also stub out for Tiankin Road as a future water line like we've done in the past. So we have a master plan that we did about 5 years ago, and it calls for where all the water lines go someday. And so as we build these water lines, we stub out for that next one down the road. So if you recall, we stubbed out for 600 East. We've got stub outs on both sides, but there's no water line there connecting it. Over on Daniel Road, when we put in that water line, we have a stub out for Tiankin that doesn't go anywhere. This one will be the other side for Tiankin, and then someday when we come back, all that infrastructure is in place. And so the plan is to basically do, to design and bid out that water line in preparation for the school. Along with that, the school has asked that we run a couple of 1-inch conduits, 2 1-inch conduits, 1 2-inch conduit.
2
Sorry,
1-inch conduits.
2 1-inch conduits alongside that, so we'll offset that probably 5 feet, whatever the distance is on the requirements there, and we'll do that as a separate bid schedule. The school district's talked about needing this water line for the school, and I've been working with Francis on different ways we can do that. Ultimately, this is going to become, the water line will become part of the water system and will become our responsibility. And so it's been my recommendation that as part of that, that if the town's going to eventually own and operate it, that we design and build it, so that we don't take on something that, there's been a number of other municipalities that have allowed developers to design and build things and then take over the responsibility, and it's done differently or whatnot that has caused problems. So working with the school district, they've submitted that letter to us on Friday that said they'll reimburse the town for the design and then the construction of this, but basically have us do the work. With the extension of that fiber conduit, which is really kind of ancillary to the main water line. And to the public comment on construction, this would be one part that would be very hard to have construction traffic come in from any other way, because we're going up Ranch Drive with the water line.
So on the east side of
So it would
Ranch?
be, the plan is to do it on the east side.
How
So we-
long will that take?
It should go relatively quickly. So 2 or 3 weeks, I would imagine, to get most of it done, and then another couple of weeks to clean up. I'm not quite sure why, but you can't seem to do a project on this in about a month. No matter how small it goes, they take about a month to clean up. So that's the gist of the project. I don't know if the school district has anything to add to that proposal. I don't know that it did the proposal justice.
I think you covered it pretty well, unless the council has questions.
Well, for those of us who've been at the meetings, this is kind of what, as far as the water line specifically, this is kind of what we looked forward to or anticipated is, we could design it, it would mesh with our system. I think the letter speaks for itself. I don't know if you had a chance to read that, John, or not, but as far as the water line and the conduit, I don't see any issues with the town not seeing it being a real positive. As far as this goes, there are some other issues that are really close to this one, and that would be the sewer. And has there been any discussion with what's gone on with the sewer and how that's going to get handled?
We're currently working with Heber City to try and connect to the sewer that's in 2400. So,
That might, or is there, so you're still designing that plan, or how that's going to exit and how that's going to?
correct.
So is the on-site system out of the picture now?
According to the health department would like us to expend every effort to try and link to the sewer system first. So
Is this letter from what the district had indicated last time? Does this seem like it's what we expected as far as from them and what we were able to do with that water line?
Yeah, I think we discussed talking about applying that fee towards the water line and crediting the district with those monies. We didn't have a set amount, but we didn't know what it would cost, and we didn't know what percentage it would be. It looks from the letter, it looks like you're asking for the entire amount, is that correct?
Yes.
So the letter, I think we got basically everything we had asked for, which is, we're gonna use, the impact fee will be in lieu of the construction. Right now, best engineering estimates are that the water line will cost more than the impact fee.
Okay.
But they put in there in that event that we get some great bids that they'll pay the full impact fee one way or another. Whether it be the water line where they pay the impact fee plus, or whether bids come in at, if we can do the water line for $100,000, the difference goes to the town as an impact fee for other things.
Seem reasonable.
Looking at bids this summer, I'm not sure that that's gonna happen, but it's wonderful to think that it could.
Okay.
So is this are we up to fire code with the hydrants, everything going in on this line? All of this is included in this bid?
Yes, so the only thing the school district asked to exclude in that letter, which I think was reasonable, is the connections to the other homes.
Correct.
And so if we choose to put those in and cut the road and put those cans in now, that obviously would have to be a separate bid schedule that the school district wouldn't be reimbursing us for, which is.
Did you did that during the?
So I've had some preliminary conversations, and I think the town can have some more about whether or not we want to do that now. The advantages of doing it now versus the advantages of waiting. And there's pros and cons both ways, so we can have that conversation.
And I think when we have a full council, it'll be a great discussion to have.
So I don't think we need that decision right now. We can move forward with the plans and the specs and whether or not we add, whether or not those are future connections or whether or not we do that now is something we can talk about. But that's really the only thing that the letter excludes. Looking at the length, there's probably 3 or 4 fire hydrants, and I would assume that that would be part of the water line construction, would be those fire hydrants. So then the only exception there is the cans, if we choose to put those in.
Right, okay. And the same with the pool boxes for the fiber, that's also part of the district, right?
Yes, so they've asked for a separate bid schedule for the fiber, and so that'll be separate from the impact fee for the water line, and
Right.
we'll be keeping the 2 buckets separate.
So my question is, if this is going as an alternate on the bid, do we want an alternate also for the cans
We can do that.
on the same bid, so we're not looking at?
Yeah, and so we can add all the other alternates we want. At a minimum, those are the 2 things the school district has asked for, is one for the water line and then a separate bid, just to keep it separate, so that we understand the separate monies and separate change orders and whatnot on that fiber. But at the same time, it makes a lot of sense to have one person and one contractor do both, because you're digging a
Right.
trench in the same spot.
How far away will this fiber be from?
I don't know. I would imagine a minimum of 5 feet is the usual distance that they want fiber separated from other utilities.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think there's anything in here that would throw up a red flag as far as what we've talked about is with the district, so. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think it would be less than 180,000, that's a long
I
road, so.
find it unlikely, but they were nice enough to accommodate that request. If pipe prices drop a lot in the next couple months.
So would you be looking for just a motion from the council to move to proceed with as written letter? Or?
So the council, I have a task order, a contract basically between the town and
That's right.
Epic to move forward with the design, because the district, although I've worked with the school district, the contract would be through the town. Since you're contracting for it, it'd be reimbursed by the district. So if the council's okay with it, a motion to have the mayor approve that. And we can either sign it now, or I can, if there's tweaks or changes you want to that, if you can make the motion in spirit, we can work through the I's and T's this week.
Rough estimate for design?
I've estimated 7,500, sorry, I didn't put that in the presentation. I've estimated 7,500 for the design, getting it all the way to bid, having the bids ready to review by both boards.
Okay.
And that's what the school districts agreed to reimburse.
I don't see any issue. I know we're both going to be able to decide on contractor. I don't think that's something that just, the verbal that you would okay and then we'd okay, or is that a meeting that you'd want to have to sit down and go over the contractors and who might have a better reputation and who might not be, or are those some
I
concerns?
think you would competitively bid it.
That's the
You make,
issue
you
for
make the
us.
decision and then don't just let the school district.
Yeah.
do that. You know?
So, but we'll come to you with the low bid.
It just needs to be
Right.
competitively bid, and then we would need to take that to the board
So
to
you
have that
approve
approved.
it, then the school can approve it.
That's state statute for us, it has to be done that way, so.
Us too.
We'll be following a very similar set of rules for us on the
Sure you will.
competitively bidding.
Well, I would entertain a motion then to proceed and go ahead with regards to the water line and the issues in the conduit and the fiber optic.
So moved.
Have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any last discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, that went easy and that was fast.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Corey, do you know when our next meetings or some of these other things might be coming up, or maybe a month or two?
I think we'd like to spend a little time with the folks in the community there to have a little discussion
Great.
with them, and so after that point, I'll call you, Mayor.
Perfect.
Our times are about done, we can bring them out and
Yeah.
go from them like that.
Stay warm and have a good evening.
Thank you. Awesome, thank you.
One of you guys, somebody.
All right. On to item number 3, business license applications. I'm going to go to Eric for a minute.
Sure. We have a bunch. We have, what I need to talk about here is Computer Nerds. They're up for their renewal. Classic Beauty Supply, they've sent a check. Jill's Hair Styling, and Wes's Auto Repair. And Pullman Trucking. So all those items have come through. I believe this Peter Nerds, that the town owes him some money for some of his things, so I just processed that.
Okay, as in on the warrant,
I don't know.
He hasn't presented an invoice on anything.
Hasn't he? Okay. So it's up to you if you want to hold that and wait for him, or,
but he's already filled out the application for this.
it's a renewal, so,
It's just not that good.
yeah, it's all, so, yeah.
I just sent it to her, so there's paper trail.
What about, last meeting I missed with regards to business licenses versus conditional uses and mixing that together, or having one as a separate standard than another?
Well, we talked about the uses, and maybe there were some impacts that would be impacting the community more than other uses in the home-based business. And if we identified those, we would make that a conditional use within the town, add that to the list of the conditional use, and make it a conditional use in the RA5 zone or whatever zone that we felt that was appropriate to do. Because there's some impacts that some of the folks have decided are too impactful to a residential setting.
Is that-
So,
Is that something that's moving forward, or just kind of spoken of last month?
no, we just spoke of it, we haven't made the decision. Instead of, well, I don't know if we need to get into it too much. The legislature right now, there's a bill in front of them taking away the municipality's right to license businesses within the municipality, so it may be all for naught.
It's all state licensing then, that's what we're trying to get to?
Well, the folks that don't qualify for the divisional occupational licensing would not be able, they're taking away the municipality's ability to license. It might be for naught. I don't know.
Get it back to what we-
I don't know how much energy you want to spend on it before the legislature has a vote.
Well, that answered my question as far as talking about it, if we're gonna move forward, so. Might be some loose chips in there, I might pull out. Okay.
But that just came up because of that same discussion, that maybe we had some things that weren't necessarily qualified at this point. And we have some that are at the end, but there's some impacts that the folks are noticing, so that would be one way to handle those issues.
And as I thought through that, that seemed like a fairly simple way to address some of the issues when they first come on board for a business license and or switching over to conditional use. I'd like to see that discussion maybe move forward a little bit further over the a while.
Okay, do you want me to move forward now, or do you want to see what the legislature does?
Let's see, if they're that close away to the legislature.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else with business licenses?
No, that'll be enough.
Discussion and resolution to appoint Tom Rollins to the Planning Commission in place of Blaine Smith.
He didn't make it tonight, did he?
No? That's something, he applied for that, I take it? There's no, okay, great. Any comments or questions from the council or board on this? Tom?
I think it'd be a good addition.
Okay, Chair will entertain a motion to put Tom on place and replacing Blaine. Yep.
I make a motion to appoint Tom Rollins to the planning commission to replace Blaine Smith, who's resigning.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, any last discussion? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? I will read then the resolution and we'll also get this passed. Number DR-216-02-01. Approval date February 1st, 2016. Effective date February 1st, 2016. Short title, resolution appointing Tom Rollins as a planning commissioner. Purpose, the purpose of this resolution is to replace Blaine Smith by appointment of Tom Rollins to the Daniel Planning Commission. Resolution, be it resolved and approved by the Daniel Town Council that Tom Rollins has applied for a position as a planning commissioner and accepts the position of a seat 7 by agreeing to abide by the ordinances established by the Daniel Town Council and the bylaws established by the Daniel Planning Commission. He will finish the remaining months of Blaine Smith's term, which ends January 2018. And we have a motion to accept the make the resolution.
And make a motion to accept the resolution that's written.
Second.
We have a first and a second on the resolution. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Really, we're waiting for me.
You were. I talked to Kim today, and Kim and Gary.
We locked the door on a public meeting. I guess it's back to training for us, huh?
I'm recording it.
That wood block didn't work?
Just trying to set the tone. Yeah. Open the Public Meeting Act.
Are you sure it says in there the door has to be open?
Like I said, the vent, like you can hear through the vent, so. Anyway, for item number 5 and number 6, as far as Daniel municipal water items as needed, and item 6, storm haven water issue is needed. Both Kim and Gary were not able to make it this evening. They called in and asked to be excused.
Mike's here.
Mike could probably share some information, light on it, but I think we've kind of come and gone over a few issues that we had this month, and we're back to square. And
I think so, unless somebody has a question. I think we haven't heard back from the state yet on nitrate and on a couple of other issues on the fence, but I think we've got the genie back in the bottle on it, and we ought to be 0 points again, and Mary got the letters for lead out, and got those to Gary's gonna take those to the folks, and then she got the community, what do you call it? Community
The template for the CCR.
CCNR, okay, oh, so got that one. So I think that's it, I think we're good.
Consumer confidence.
Consumer
Okay, you got,
We're waiting for the nitrate results to come back, so we can finish that up. We
Okay.
had quite a month though on paperwork, we got a little behind. We didn't know we were behind, but we were very behind, and we were at a little surprise, so we've been hustling.
And it sounds like the Division of Drinking Water has been, they've been really good at trying to work with people. And now the EPA is apparently really coming down on them and whacking them and, you know, basically saying, you hit him with a stick or I'll hit you with a stick. And so it's like, sure, I hit you with a stick. So anyway, that's what they're doing. The only other change that I know of is the reform total coliform rule that you probably understand better than I do. But in April the 1st, if you have, especially an E. coli hit, you just go right, pretty much, you take downstream samples, but you go right to your source material to try to work out with the problem so that before it was you're looking downstream and trying to figure out if you still have a problem. Now they're saying just go look and find the dang problem.
Yeah, it's part of your testing, you go source, every source too, and so it's gonna be complicated for a lot of municipalities who buy a lot of water from different places. We're lucky, we're, two places, so. It's gonna be, plus it's expensive, so, it just runs the cost up. I understand why they're doing that, but.
I got another comment, but I think we need full council here, but.
What's that?
Which item?
With
5 or?
5, with pertaining to Garrett Walton, Kim Norris.
Don't talk about them, they're not here.
Yeah, I can't talk about it, I'm not here. But anyway, when we get a full council, I'd like to address the compensation that they're receiving, because I think that ought to be probably upped with what they're having to go through, because sooner or later, they're gonna be getting out, and we're gonna have to hire somebody to do this, and we better get used to paying them.
Well, and that discussion is getting moved up the ladder by the day. So
Okay.
I would agree with that, and it's on my mind, your mind, and I know all people who have licenses for the town water mind, and everybody's minds.
Swell.
Yes. So to check off the list, any other issues as far as Daniel Municipal with the council they want to discuss? Not anything with Stormhaven, and I'm glad to see this winter that we haven't had any hiccups with all the work that was done, you know, with all the stuff going in. That I think what we wanted is not to have these hiccups, and we're not so far. So knock on wood. So I wanted to thank all that hard work that went into place late this fall, and I think it paid off. So
I think our snowplow bill's gonna be a little higher this year, isn't it?
you'll see tonight. Okay, so that'll take off 5 and 6 then off the Stormhaven. The next would be Planning Department report, code violations and enforcement. Before I turn that over to Eric, I would like to say we don't get too many compliments as a council, but Eric had written some letters out from some citizens that were concerned about some issues, and as usual, I thought the letter was well written, and she wrote back today, and maybe it was yesterday or last night, and thanked us for getting back to her, and thanked for the way the letter is written and explained to her, and so it was a nice compliment for those involved in anybody that's dealing with complaints or the residents trying to take care of any problems. So we got a nice compliment. I want to thank Eric and Lynn for dealing with those folks. So I'll turn it over to you, Eric.
No, there's one, huh? I'll frame it.
We don't get those very often. That's why I wanted to mention it.
Get a frame. Speaking of that, I did bring her letter. Everybody remember that letter that we received from Mary? This is her response too. I'll just read it. Thank you so much for your response to my letter. Your letter explained things very clearly. Thank you for the welcome. I just love this little community you all have created. I appreciate your attention to this matter, Mary. So that was her reply back as well. So I think everything, I really brought those for Casey because I know he's missed a couple of meetings with regards to that. We do have one other one Do you guys have any questions for me on the planning report before I? There's no reason for me to go through all of it if you guys don't have a question. Is there anything on there that you guys see that's
You know, as far as,
you need to talk about?
not necessarily that I haven't heard.
Okay.
Unless you feel that you need to hear it, yeah.
Whatever you want to do.
There-
Norm Sperry, we did reply to his letter. They're looking into putting that on. Kim's talking to Chris about putting those information on the billing.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if you just want to go through that. Is there anything on there that,
The only one was the building permit, the lockout permit.
Do you have another copy of that?
yes? Did I not have that or not?
No.
Sorry.
Oh, but I did.
That would be.
So you wanted what was that?
So, where I was gone last month on the person that did the building without a permit,
Okay.
as I recall, we didn't get to any decision last month on
Right.
what we're gonna do.
This is the trailer park addition at 3000 South. We have not had any response, is that correct, Ryan?
That's correct.
So we haven't had any response, so it's time for the council to decide what they want me to do. At this point, everything will be in writing because we're probably headed to court. So we'll be very careful about how we proceed with this. I don't know if the council's ready to move on that, we'll move on it. What do you want me to do?
Well, I've asked a question, why, is there a reason why we wouldn't want to move on it now after we've already, it's been 60 days since we've given them the stop work order on it, and, you know, I just want to make sure I thought of all the angles and don't want to just rush ahead, but is there any reason why we wouldn't want to move forward?
I don't think there's a reason we wouldn't want to move forward. I need the council, we're gonna be incurring costs on it as soon as I send a letter. We'll start incurring costs from the attorney as soon as we hand it over to him, so.
Well,
We issued a stop work order, they did stop. They did stop the work on it. But now we have a building that's half built. Maybe occupied, maybe won't, not, I don't know. But either way, it was built without a permit, so.
So
if it's not occupied, someone is burning and staying warm in there each and every day. So I don't think someone is occupying it myself.
So obviously, there's a wood stove in that section, and so we haven't inspected it. It might fix itself.
It could.
That would be sad.
We should probably act before it fixes itself.
Yes, yeah, that would be sad.
John, do you know what we're talking about?
yeah, that's an addition or something on there, trail.
A framed addition on a